Welcome back to another episode of Knife Time, and today we have a fantastic knife here for you to review. This is a custom knife factory collaboration with John Sorensen of Rotten Design. A really interesting knife, something different to any other design they've done before, and we're gonna quickly show you that. I usually don't do stats on the video like a specification, but because this is fairly new, I'll just quickly go over it from the Custom Knife Factory website. The overall length on the knife is 214 millimeters or 8.43 inches. Blade is 9.5 millimeters or 3.74 inches. The blade is M390 as usual with Custom Knife Factory, and they get a really good heat treatment on that M390. It's a hollow ground, very interesting hollow ground in fact, and we show you that soon in the video. The blade runs on ball bearing washers. Handle is about 190 millimeters or 4.69 inches, and they come in three variations in terms of handle material. This particular one here is the full titanium, and there's another version with shredded carbon fiber, and there's a third version with this exact same titanium, but they have a Damascus pivot ring, so the milling on it is a bit different. The weight on the knife is 219 grams, and I think that's it for the stats. And of course it's a frame lock and comes with a stainless lock bar insert. Before I show you anything else, I'm going to show you this magnificent Damascus clip, because as soon as we start the video I will get fingerprints all over it, and it's not going to look this pretty. Just look at the way the light that bounces off this beautiful pocket clip. This is, by the way, optional extra. It doesn't come standard on the knife, but if you want to purchase it separately, it's only $50, which is ridiculous. I mean, $50 for a Damascus clip is really reasonable, because any other knife maker or knife model that I know would charge about 120 or 150 for a Damascus pocket clip. So $50 is a steal for this. So design, as I mentioned, John Sorensen of Rotten Design. If you don't follow him on Instagram, you really should, because he does some fantastic work. He's basically known for his grinds and regrinds. He started out grinding other people's knives, and he basically regrinds the blades, and he does some really crazy work, and this knife is not an exception to that. The grind on this one is just ridiculous. Other things to mention is that the price point of these knives, I mean, if you want to get a custom Rotten Design Evolution, they barely become available, and when they do, they go up in auctions on his Instagram, and the last one I remember fetched about $5,500 US. So they're not cheap at all. And this Custom Knife Factory Evolution is going to be the only way to get an Evolution for most of us. So in terms of the numbers, there are only 295 of these produced in three versions. As I mentioned, this particular one, this setup was a 200 pieces run, and then there's 50 with the shredded carbon fiber front handle, and there's 45 with this exact same handle but a milled sort of pivot with a Damascus pivot color. 295 for a knife this desirable and this sought after was really nothing. So no wonder they're sold out completely, and unfortunately a lot of people have missed out on this knife, but that's how the things are sometimes, unfortunately. If you did score one, congratulations, it's a great knife to have. So let's get into the design. So I start with the blade. As I mentioned, the grind on this blade is something else. Just have a look at if I can get it to focus. It is very difficult. Just look at the shape of the the blade, which is kind of cool. Really large, beefy, aggressive looking blade. And then you've got some ridiculously cool grinds. So the blade thickness, which I forgot to mention, is 5 millimeters thick. That is pretty thick for any knife. I mean, even something this big, 5 millimeter thickness is pretty, you know, pretty substantial. But it actually doesn't feel as fat and as thick, and that's because of this really deep hollow grind. So if you look at the spine, the blade stock is really thick, but it drops right here. So it starts thinning down right on the top switch, and then pretty much 3/4 up on the blade starts the very deep hollow grind. So you only have the flat and this bit of the top of the spine at 5 millimeters. So don't get you know, don't freak out when you see the 5 millimeter blade thickness in the spec sheet. So it's not really that bad. So the top switch, very cool, and it comes to a very interesting tip as well. Look at the shape of that tip. That's pretty interesting. And then you have this really deep hollow grind. I mean, it comes to a very thin edge, pretty thin edge, which makes this knife a very good slicer. I mean, I can see this chop, and slice through anything. It's really crazy thin when it comes down. Imagine from 5 millimeters to nothing. It is just really thin. And the interesting finish on the blade as well. So you can see deep satin, machine satin on the grinds and the top switch and the tip, and then the flats and the spine are this dark acid stone wash. A very fine stone wash, by the way. Custom Knife Factory, as you know, they don't really do, you know, rough satin finishes, but this one was done on purpose to give you that distinction between the satin and the stone wash, and also give you a bit of a working finish too. I do really like the blade. This is probably the most you know, interesting part for me. And then we get to the handle. Really large, beefy handle, heavy handle with 3 large finger grooves. When I saw the pictures, and I wasn't really sure about the finger grooves, I wasn't really, you know, I was kind of skeptical if this is going to work and if it's going to feel comfortable in the hand. But when I handled the knife, I actually realized it's pretty comfortable. There's no hot spots whatsoever. You know, I can grab and squeeze on the knife and it still feels comfortable. And that's because every corner has been rounded and chamfered. Just look at that. Just look how many angles you have around the handles. So everything is very smooth, chamfered and rounded. It feels really nice to the touch. Feels very smooth. And that's why when you hold the knife in the hand and you squeeze on it and you hold it really firm, there's no hot spots whatsoever. The other thing is the tail end of the knife is sort of larger and fatter, so that gives you a better purchase. The knife doesn't slip out of your hand. And then you got this aggressive jimping on the top. So you got some aggressive jimping or deep milling on the pocket clip as well. We'll get to that shortly. And then you have a full front finger choil that is pretty useful actually. It's a large finger choil and it's pretty practical. I can choke up on the blade like that, and it does work well on the reverse grip too, just like that. And then on the reverse grip you obviously have this milled back spacer that gives you a bit more purchase, which you need because the zirconium back spacer is quite sleek and slippery because it's fully polished. And while we are here, let's talk about the Fingerprint Magnet zirconium back spacer, which is gorgeous. I mean, look at that shine coming from the back spacer. I absolutely love it. It does add a bit of weight to the knife, but I don't really mind. I like the luxurious materials on the knife when I can get them. And when you get this large zirconium backspacer, I wouldn't really complain about the fingerprints, to be honest. I already have so much fingerprints on the pocket clip as well, but once you wipe it down, that's all it takes. The colors just pop again. Just look at that. It is beautiful for 50 bucks only. Credit to Custom Knife Factory for, you know, always giving you more value. One thing I really like about Custom Knife Factory, as I've mentioned in other videos, is the way they incorporate their logo. Really discreet, minimal space on the knife. So they put their logo here, and then Rotten Design logo there, and very discreetly laser etched M390 and the serial number 130. That's it. They don't go out printing all over this blade. You know, imagine if this gorgeous blade had, you know, factory name, designer name, and the blade is steel and blah blah blah. You really don't want to dirty that beautiful blade. So good thing that Custom Knife Factory always does. And another thing actually I need to mention is when I saw the pictures of this pocket clip, I noticed it's a very shallow pocket clip, so I was a little bit concerned that it may not work very well with the thick material if you have thick jeans, but I actually tried it in the pocket and it works just fine. And the reason is the pocket clip widens out towards the tip, and then you can see about 2 to 3 millimeters on the tip of the pocket clip are raised, so that gives you a bit of a hand to get the material underneath, and then see how easy it lifts up. And that's because the pocket clip is kind of a long pocket clip. Just see how much of the handle it covers. It's a very long pocket clip, and that makes it pretty easy to ride in the pocket, although it does ride a little bit high, so this much of the knife is going to be sticking out of your pocket. So let's get to the action, and boy, that action is crazy smooth, as usual with Custom Knife Factory. So if you want to open it, you can use your thumb and open it traditional way, nice and slow, but that's not fun because you can thumb flick it like that pretty easily. My hands are sweaty, so I sleep a little bit. It's really warm here in the studio with the lights. But my favorite action on this is the spider flick. It flicks really well, and just look at the drop shotty action. It is glass-like smooth. Just super cool. You can sit there, play with this action all day long, and I'm being very cautious. I don't let the blade drop because it's a heavy blade and a really smooth action, and if you let it go, it will chop your finger. So I'm being very cautious with it. That's how smooth it is. And one thing about the blade hole is that they've chamfered all the edges and rounded it, so there's no hot spots whatsoever. Really nice, really smooth. And let me show you the blade stop, the large titanium blade stops. So when you open the blade, that's your blade stop, and then when you close it, you've got this very interesting blade stop here. So this hole right in the middle of the handle, which you can see through, I was wondering what that is. Then I had a closer look. This is actually the blade stop on the closing. So usually the blade stop is somewhere around here on most knives, you know, just around the top of the pivot. But in this knife, for some reason, they've just put it right in the middle, and they actually wanted you to know that it's there, because instead of going with internal you know, holes and then a solid stop pin, they've gone with a hollow stop pin. So I don't believe there's any technical advantage to that. It's just a cool factor or a nice feature to have on a knife, something a bit different and interesting. And then this handle actually has, you probably can't see it in the picture. Yeah, you can see it here. They are milled inside. They have you know, the pockets inside the handle on both sides to reduce the weight, which is necessary for a large knife like this. This is quite large actually, by the way. I mean, really beefy handle and beefy blade, which is pretty cool. When you close the knife, it's almost squarish, as you see, and then you can probably use it as an impact weapon if you like. I wouldn't recommend, because you're gonna ruin this zirconium backspacer, and zirconium is pretty soft if you didn't know, so you don't really want to damage that. So I think that's it. We pretty much covered everything except what comes in the pouch. Let me quickly show you that. As usual, you get the custom knife factory pouch, and let's see what's inside. So, microfiber cloth. This is the original pocket clip, which is darkened titanium or DLC coated, I believe. So if you don't get the extra pocket clip, that's how they come. Some kind of Russian money. I believe these are discontinued. Probably worth nothing, and that's why it's in the package. But yeah, something, a little gift from Russia. Certificate of authenticity, a sticker, and then you have all the goodies, all the you know, spare hardware that you need. So let me get this out of the way. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and make sure you don't miss our next videos, because I've got other interesting knives coming from Custom Knife Factory as well as other brands. Catch you later.